at 1 Minute Black? Just 1 minute.
They're not going to be here, Alan. Alan?
Rolling, where's Alan?
You know, we'll just start without him. Okay, Josh?
Hello, we have Paula Gloria here. This is Josh Volinski. And Paula Gloria, on your show, Further Down the Rabbit Hole, what are your goals?
On Further Down the Rabbit Hole, the purpose is to go into topics more deeply. But originally, the reason I got the name Farther Down the Rabbit Hole was because I was slipstreaming off the success of a kind of a underground movie that was sort of a classic among spiritual seekers called What the Bleep Do We Know? And before I went to India for 4 years, Alan and I had had interviews with these people, and I felt that our interviews went deeper, so I called it Farther Down the Rabbit Hole.
As opposed to Further Down the Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, I own a copy of that, and I love that film, and I see it over and over again. And I understand you also went to the School of Ramtha.
Right.
In Washington State. How long did you stay? And
well, actually, if you come up on the two-shot, Alan Steinfeld's come back into the studio. Nothing like rolling tapes, and then where's Alan?
Was I missing from the studio? I just had to run out and check on my boiling water.
The Ramtha School.
The Ramtha School, yes. Paul and I both went to the Ramtha School. I actually was there for 20-something years. And then when I met Paul, I said, you got to do this. And then eventually we went on to other things. But what was the question?
Oh, I forgot that.
Well, actually, What the Bleep came out of the Ramtha School. I mean, the producers and the directors, the writers of that film met at the Ramtha School and were inspired by the teachings of Ramtha. So that film, although indirectly related to the Ramtha School, came out of the teachings of the Ramtha School, as I see it, and they probably would acknowledge that too. So it was very exciting to be part of this School of Consciousness for so many years, and it's still going on, ramtha.com. Any comments, Paula? Well, we interviewed...
I never would have gone there if I didn't know you. So
right.
You opened up a whole new experience.
But we both had some great experiences. I remember
Yeah.
you were doing the dance of the blue body.
The blue body dance.
And you actually saw through your blindfold?
Yeah.
What happened? Tell me, because that was amazing.
But Josh, do you want to know?
Oh, yeah.
well, what I want to know is, did you both pass your final exam? When Ramtha, when you make that mark on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and you put it on a corral fence,
Yeah.
and then they blindfold you, and you have to walk around this tremendous corral and find your piece of paper blindfolded. Did you accomplish that?
Well, I have to say I did, but it took me about...
20 years?
No, we only started doing it the last 10 years. I found it a few times, and it's so... it took me about 10 years to find my card. But when you find it, I mean, you're in such an altered state. You're in such an altered state that you don't even hardly recognize your card because there's no one there to recognize the card, because it's the personality draws it, and then this other part of you is what seeks its manifestation. So you're sort of way beyond what you wanted when you actually do find it, if that makes sense. Did you find your card?
Yeah, I found my body card.
You found your body card. Good.
Do you know what a body card is?
No, tell them what a body card is.
A body card is where you draw a picture of your body with things that you want to fix on it, that you want some attention on. And actually, I asked for better eyesight. And, I don't wear glasses anymore.
You don't?
My eyesight's better than it was, because my eye doctor actually measured it and told me. I think maybe that's looking at the sunrise. And so the card can go for years.
But the card is an incredible manifestation of your dreams, hopes, and intentions. It's a way to focus on an intention, and the card is not that you get the card, it's that you get the intention. And so sometimes it doesn't even matter if you get the card, it's that your focus has been so great that the intentions happen, and now you're doing the work you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're working with body.
I actually remember when I was looking for one card was New Realities.
Aww.
You know, and I was walking through the field, and I really felt like I stepped into another dimension. I really did. Even though I didn't get the card, I really felt like I went somewhere else.
It's true. The Ramtha School has some amazing doorways into realities that you don't know about unless you're there, unless you really go to the school and become a part of that process. You don't understand the doorways of possibilities that can be opened.
Right. Josh, any more questions on that?
But that's valuable.
Yeah,
oh,
you
go
know,
ahead.
here is really something I wonder about. Like, I sat next to Alan Steinfeld in the synagogue, and he knows his Hebrew, and he knows his Torah.
I don't
And
really.
I'm sure the listeners or the viewers wonder about the same thing I do. These modalities that you're into,
Yeah.
and you understand, they really consist of many layers of study, understanding, and a tremendous amount of time, of dedication. And can you really quickly give us your background of how
He's a good
you
interviewer.
have managed to go through so many modalities, study, and try to comprehend these modalities?
Well, I appreciate that question, Josh. I mean, it's a great question. So while, you know, people have been out there in the business world making money, supporting a family, creating a living,
Kicking around girlfriends.
What's that?
Nothing.
or buying a big fancy house. I've been researching. I've been studying and researching and investigating consciousness, spirituality. So I haven't been distracted by a lot of the mundane things of the world. I mean, although I have been distracted. That's one of my distractions right next to me. But no, I've just put my attention on that. It's something I really wanted to learn because here are the great masters. They've wanted to.
But just a second.
They have looked in these areas, and I want to find out what the great minds of history have understood. What are you saying?
Well, Josh, did you catch that? He said that I was a distraction.
No, I was kidding.
No, I know. Of course, he says he was kidding. But let me tell you, This is the first, except for John Anthony West, this was the first Jewish guy I ever went out with.
No,
and the first time I was with Alan, I thought that this is for sure just going to be a very brief encounter.
Here we are, 8 years later.
Is it maybe 9 years?
Maybe it's 9 years. I think this
he was very fascinating. But I must say,
me?
Josh, you talk about being with him in the synagogue and things. Until I met his mother, I didn't take him seriously.
Thanks.
And when I met Alan's mother, I realized, where he came from. And he really comes from a nice family.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Otherwise, living in the East Village in this messy apartment.
Thanks. Why didn't you just tell everybody?
Well, it's not like... I mean, you know what I'm saying, Josh, right?
No. What are you saying?
Josh, are you there?
Are you saying
Yes.
that... You're saying...
No,
a legitimate...
You and Alan were also in India, so how was that like?
Well, Paula was there a lot longer than I was. I just went to visit her, but it was... Actually, it was great seeing, I still remember that time I came in by myself, and it was at night into Bangalore.
Right.
And, I didn't know how to find her. I arrived in India. I had been in India before, but where was I going to find her in this teeming masses?
Massive humanity.
Right.
Cab drivers and
cab
rickshaw
drivers
and everyone
people
clawing
begging
at you.
and people dressed in rags. There I get out of the airport, and there she was in a green sari that was like glowing. It was like a vision. Green sari with the blonde hair out of this crowd of a kind of a mass of humanity. But there she was, and
isn't he a sweetheart, Josh?
It was like. It actually took my breath away for a moment.
Aw.
Didn't I tell you?
See,
that?
you aggravate me so much, and then times like that, you melt my heart.
I aggravate you.
Oh, yes.
What am I who's aggravating who? No,
But you keep it up, Josh. You're on
how
the
do
right track.
I
Keep
want to know,
going.
how do I aggravate you?
Well,
Because I'll tell you how you aggravate me.
because I felt like in India, if you had been there with me longer, we could have accomplished more.
Yeah, but I didn't want to be in India any longer than I had to, believe me.
He didn't
It's
like
not a
India
vacation.
because it's not a no, it's not a vacation.
It's messier than my apartment.
But creating new realities it does take a lot of work, and you have to avail yourself of people who know more than you do. So there is a process of humility, although you also need confidence that you can
that
do
wasn't
it.
what that wasn't. That had nothing to do with me. You were on your own search, and I just wanted to get out of there. I needed to come back to New York and.
You had
what
bad experiences up
No,
up in Varanasi. You got so sick. It was amazing. He came back a second time because some
I didn't
people
like
get very
Varanasi.
sick in
but
India.
I got over that.
But he actually gained weight. You gained weight on
in
that.
the second trip, I did gain weight in India.
This
but,
was amazing.
Because we
Then we
only
got
ate
married.
starches.
We got married in
We'll
India.
show the video. We should show the video from that. But no, I didn't like India. It was not a vacation.
No, it wasn't.
It's not a. I mean, it's a beautiful place, but it's dirty and smells and it's crowded. And there's some beautiful parts to it also, but it's hard to relax there. It's like New York City 10 times over. That's why I find the cities in India, Delhi, Bangalore's okay, but Delhi and Mumbai were really...
It's very people intensive.
Yes, you have to be a people person. Not that I'm not.
No, I know you're a people person. What do you think, Josh?
Josh, more questions if you have it, but that was a good one about India.
Well, I think in some ways New York City is starting to catch up with India.
Yeah.
In other words, of course, I still appreciate many of the good things about New York City, but you know, like our infrastructure is starting to deteriorate.
You're so right.
greatly.
No, you're completely right. I was thinking about that. One thing India has that's really nice is a good train system. So it's able to take people for you could go 1,500 miles and it costs you $5 in second class. And you have the windows open in the train and you meet all kinds of people. It's a wonderful thing. And I heard they were kind of trying to kill the train so they could bring in something else so it could fall apart and they could
No, they'll
collect
never
money
be
on
able
the
to get
record.
rid of the trains in India. That is like the
lifeblood?
stable. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
how people get around.
But it's
Oh,
in the...
Can you tell that woman to come in, George?
Okay.
Come on in.
Okay, great.
Would you sit down?
Have a
We'll just
seat. We're
finish.
just finishing up a show.
Yeah, you can sit right there.
Thank you so much.
So
Thanks.
back to India, we were talking
Jan,
about
right?
the,
Kim, sorry.
the trains is really interesting because the trains were put in to get resources out of India over to England. The English put the trains in. But now it's used for pilgrims. So the poorest Indian can go to all parts of India because they feel that each temple is like a different part of the Divine Mother's body. And so by visiting the different temples, they're able to accrue a lot of spiritual merit. And Varanasi is kind of to India what Jerusalem is like to the West, because Islam, Christianity, and Judaism all have great reverence for Jerusalem. You know, and I know you got sick in Varanasi because
I just had water that I shouldn't have, or something that was not very nourishing.
No,
Let's put it that
it's
way.
intense.
No, you just have to be super, super careful with everything that you have in India.
It's a good place to go if you're constipated.
That's not the reason I would go, though.
I know.
Okay, Josh, go ahead.
Okay, here's a very interesting question.
Good.
I wrote it down, so I'll ask you about it, but I'm not going to read it directly. What I want to ask you is, when Mihap was lecturing, he spoke about Indian children playing hide and seek by going through a wall, and I asked Paula about it, and I said, as a skeptic, I said, that's something I have to see to believe. And I asked her if you believed it, Paula, and you said, yes, you do believe it. But you believe it because you have climbed and studied each of the individual steps. But what can you say to us skeptics.
But Josh, you know, I believe it maybe because I'm naive, you know. Who knows? I think the proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating. I think those were little Tibetan children, or I think it was a story that was relayed to him by an ambassador who somehow had this information. The reason I believe it is I believe that our social conditioning really holds us down, and that we can do so much more. And I believe that a lot of the science, like of Nikola Tesla and so on, I don't think Nikola Tesla was really that exceptional. I mean, he was exceptional, but I don't think he was the only one. So I think the science of the mind is a science yet to be unfolded, and some parts of the world don't know. They don't live by the restrictions that this can't be done.
Well, let me just jump in, because if we are empty space mostly, and there's really no solid mass, I think the power of the mind can move the molecules. I mean, I haven't seen that exactly, but I've seen Tibetan teachers put a staff through a rock, you know, because they're able to control the material aspects of those things.
You saw that?
Well, I saw a picture of that.
I saw a picture.
But I know it's possible. I know it's possible, Josh. I just don't know how to do it yet, but I will let you know when I find out. But it is possible. I mean, yes, it's great people can be skeptical because, you know, it's unscientific, but there's so much more to science than we have yet to discover, and quantum physics, like in What the Bleep, is showing us what's really possible.
Another thing, Josh, is Michal Ledwith was cured of a very advanced form of cancer. So I think something like that really, really convinces you that there are other realities, because all the doctors, everybody says it can't be done, and then you do it and you go, wow, I've done something that everyone says couldn't be done. And then based on that you go, wow, what else could I do that I've been told that I couldn't do?
Right. So there's so much more that's possible, and that's what my program, New Realities, is all about, exploring the parameters of the mind that help us expose more potential in the human being. That's what I do. So
and then, of course, there's levitation, which a lot of people talk about.
Right, and all traditions do too. I was going to mention that, you know, that you've got the Torah and the Talmud. A lot of the ancient religions, I think they shouldn't be denigrated. It's sort of fashionable nowadays among intellectual circles to think that these things aren't possible, but that's really a function of not having access to people of great wisdom who either can accomplish these or they have a very good understanding of how it can be accomplished. But so that you can study.
Well, then you get into bilocation, and then you also getting back to what, you can put the camera on me if you want, because back to what Ramtha says,
Helen wants a
is
camera
that you can actually take your body, this little body, you take this body, and you can change it into light, and that's when you've really achieved mastery of the body, mind, and spirit. That's what they call the ascension, and that is possible. And the masters have done that.
And in India, they're called siddhas, but in the Judaic tradition, they're called, the Baal Shem Tov?
Well, Baal Shem Tov was a person who achieved that. I mean,
yeah, so there's
I don't know if
different
it's
words, but
something.
same phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean,
it's mastery of the elements.
The Christian mystics, who was that St. Jerome, would float up to the ceiling because he was so filled with ecstasy, and the Hindu masters.
And we would call St. Jerome, or, you know, we'd call him a saint, but he himself probably wouldn't particularly identify with the limitations of religion as we know it.
But, you know, when I interviewed Hal Puthoff, that was my favorite part of the interview, when Hal Puthoff, the guy who started remote viewing, is now working for the DOD and how to get zero-point energy from the vacuum. He said these people that would levitate, the eyewitness accounts, were describing a quantum field, because they said that not only would it defy gravity, these states of consciousness, but people around them would also be taken up into that. So they were actually describing a field, not just a heightened ecstasy, not just an internal state. It was affecting the external state.
I think Hal Puthoff himself could achieve better states if he would be more forthcoming about the research on
you don't know anything about
non-mass and non-mass.
You don't know anything about it?
I know he doesn't answer John Cheshire anymore. That I know.
What does that have to do with
And when
it?
John comes up with the science, well, there's so much ugga-bugga and mysticism, and mysticism in a bad way, around very technical matters, and people actually block information. I think the great mystics of the past, we might want to avoid the pain that they went through by denying them when they were in operation. But in truth, they couldn't deny the truth themselves. And I think it's better if people are more helpful than less helpful when it comes to advancement. And scientific advancement isn't something that's just the domain of intellectual people who
Well, be more
who
specific. You have to be more specific.
I think he's cowardly. I think Hal Puthoff is cowardly.
I don't think so. You've never met the guy. That's not. He's working for the
I've looked at the interviews.
No, but it has nothing to do with that. I think, he's some stuff he can't reveal.
But these mystics did reveal. They felt that
they
the
did
people
reveal,
were
so
ready.
why aren't people doing what the mystics have done if they really reveal
Because
they're not?
Because they don't want to go through the pain. They don't want to be considered
No, because
shunned.
sometimes you can't reveal
stand
it.
up for what they believe in.
You have to have the experience.
It's called witnessing in Christianity.
Yeah, but it's not about revealing anything. It's about an experience. That's what makes, again, the Ramtha School so valuable.
I'm suggesting Hal Puthoff could have the experience instead of reading about it.
Well,
that we
he
can
could,
each
but
be
he's a
noble
scientist.
in our
He's
way.
a researcher. He's doing it through scientific means.
There right now, my heartache and grief is that there are studies that are blocked. The peer-reviewed journals
of which
do not show these studies.
Well, what studies are you talking about?
Well, studies about cancer in this case, but now that you're bringing up Hal Puthoff and levitation, because if his organization is in charge of levitation, for example. No,
it's not in charge of levitation. It's in charge
then
of
whatever he says goes, and the rest of the society will believe it.
It's not like that at all. No, I don't think you've studied this. Maybe other things. Let's talk about something you
This
do
is
know.
very emotional, Josh. So
Josh,
ask more questions.
Ask Paula something she does know, not something she doesn't know.
We have 3 wonderful
That's
visitors.
a put down.
Oh,
that's
okay.
That's what frustrates
we have
me
some
about
visitors.
you.
We should wrap up the show.
Yes, well, this question we've got to ask.
Okay, and then we'll wrap it up.
Visitors in here.
Okay, good.
The question we want to ask you is, you've been around the world, India. You've been all over the States and many other places to study these modalities and these spiritual truths. What commonalities did you find among all of humanity in all the places that you visited? What does a sophisticated New Yorker have in common with peasant in India?
I'll tell you, because I have studied that, and the commonality is our ability to feel, to need, to desire, to love, to look into someone's eyes and connect with them. It doesn't matter if they're in India or New York. It's the human emotion, which is the commonality that connects us all no matter where we are. And that's what I discovered all over the world in my travels. And that was worth the travels to discover it. What did you discover?
I think I discovered what I learned at the Ramtha School, to rise above social mediocrity, and that all people at all levels have different challenges. And I think when I went to one temple in the south of India and had this connection with the idol, it took me many trips before anything really happened, other than being dazzled by thousands and thousands of people and the novelty and being the only white person there. Pretty soon, the energy I was feeling off the idol, I could actually feel off certain people who had seen it. I could tell the difference between those who'd had their darshan and who hadn't. And then one time, I really got it, that it was actually a being. And I knew I was connected with a few people out of thousands who also got it. And I realized that most of them were very poor. And I knew that on a soul level, they were very profoundly rich, and I was so lucky to even have a glimpse into their devotion. And so we think that we have so much with our material gains, but we're always challenged. Will we, with all of these material advantages, be distracted by those advantages, or will we use them?
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. This has been fun. See you next time. This has been, I guess, the Josh Wolinski Show.
Should you let Josh sign off?
Oh, go ahead.
Josh?
Josh? Okay. Thanks.
Did he just drift away? That was great.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Let me see who's gonna. Some others.
No, shall I put her here, Alan? Shall I mic her?
You can put her there, or in my chair.
I think we should move it up because we need to move this forward. Hi, this is Paula Gloria Tsakanis. You know me as the producer of The Whole Tooth, as Paula Gloria. As the producer of that show, Charity, I became very intrigued with the whole phenomenon of health and how people become happier and how people don't become happier in the case of their physiology. In the case of my show, I noticed that some people were very strong and could handle having mercury amalgams in their mouth, which is a known poison, and other people, when the mercury was taken out, improved. But I became very intrigued with those who had a very robust nervous system and seemed to be able to handle all kinds of physical onslaughts, no matter what the environmental conditions were. So in my search for what perfect health is, I became very interested in healers. Hi, this is Paula Gloria Tsakanis. I'm the producer of The Whole Tooth and also the director of the Concordia Foundation. Hi, I'm Paula Gloria, producer of The Whole Tooth. I also have another life where I'm a director of a charity. And beyond that, I have another life also, and that's a big interest in states of consciousness, higher states of consciousness, and particularly in healers. How it is that some people are able to transmit healing energy to the great benefit of those around them. So this interest in consciousness brought me to India. And I took somebody, Alan Steinfeld, who's the producer and the host of New Realities TV, which talks about the cutting edge ideas of consciousness in the field today. So Alan has interviewed Swami Kaleshwar. Swami Kaleshwar is a young saint living in India. He's 27 years old. And he attracted my attention when some friends told me about manifestations and healings that he did. He could create a healing ash that comes out of his hand, and this is something that could bring either great peace to people if they were already healthy, or if they were in some poor state of health, something wrong, it would seem as though this healing ash would be able to alleviate whatever their sickness was. Of course, not in all cases, and this is the mystery of how healing works. So you'll see in this interview, Alan will be asking very penetrating questions about the whole mechanics of our evolution towards a higher state, a more evolved state of functioning. Alan will be asking Swami questions about God. He'll be talking about manifestations. He'll be talking about healing. He'll be talking about whether there's a difference between people, saints like Swami and other individuals, just regular people like you and me. Finally, we'll probably be dividing this show into two sections.
Wait.
Hi, I'm Paula Gloria. You know me as the producer of The Whole Tooth. I also have another life where I'm a director of a charity. Beyond that, I have another interest, and that is in states of consciousness, what it means for humanity to evolve, and particularly as humanity evolves, the suffering and the pain that we all feel physically on our bodies and emotionally and psychologically in our lives can be alleviated. The phenomenon of healing is an interesting one indeed. And there are individuals in the world, they've been called saints, who seem to have an extraordinary talent and ability to transmit healing energy. When they transmit this healing energy, they also transmit something along with it, which is a greater depth, a spiritual appreciation for the more hidden things in life, which, after all is said and done, are the more important things in life. So, in this show, Alan Steinfeld, who is the producer and the host of New Realities TV, will be interviewing Swami Kaleshwar. Swami Kaleshwar is Hi, I'm Paula Gloria. I'm the producer of The Whole Tooth. I also have another life where I'm the director of a charity, the Concordia Foundation. Beyond that, I also have another life where I spend time pursuing my interest in higher states of consciousness and what it means for humanity to evolve. A more evolved humanity means a humanity that has less suffering. That's physically on the body and the health is more robust, and mentally, psychologically, they're better functioning human beings. And by having better functioning human beings, we can hope to solve the many problems that we're faced with. Ecological problems, problems of financial distribution, and so on. This long-standing interest of mine obviously has kept me in touch with many people and friends who also have this interest. And it came to my attention that there was a remarkable saint living in the south of India, Swami Kaleshwar. Swami Kaleshwar is only 27 years old, and yet even as a young boy was able to show great ability to heal and to do miracles. These miracles and healing talents would point people in the interest towards the direction of spirituality, what that means. And so I traveled to India to meet Swami myself. It was only going to be for a few weeks to check him out and perhaps to see if it was worthy to bring a camera crew to follow his activities and his teachings and his philosophies. I became so interested, I actually stayed for many months around his ashram. I had several trips in between to Cyprus and to Hong Kong because I do like to travel. I have interests in many parts of the world. Nevertheless, I put a lot of attention on Swami's activities. And at one time, Swami manifested something for me, and that's this little object that I'm wearing. Now, what's interesting about this particular manifestation was he grabbed flowers, he put them in my hands, he had my hands touching his hands, and the flowers, when I opened my hands, became this object. However, it didn't become this object entirely. It was only partly formed. These arms on this left side were not formed. In the morning, when I held it in my hand through the night with other flowers, and I opened it up, it was fully formed. Now, I also had an experience during the night of having a severe stomach ache. And when I put this on my stomach, the stomach ache went away. Now, many people can say stomach aches come and go, but I happen to know my pattern of stomach aches. And for me, that was very remarkable. Certainly in the morning, seeing that the object was more fully formed than what it had originally been given to me as was also interesting. But as Swami will be saying in this interview that Alan Steinfeld of New Realities TV is giving, miracles are just like little chocolates. They're not really the gist of what a person who is able to pull forth and manifest and bring forth more of his divine nature is able to give. It might be something that attracts someone's attention. Say if you're in a lot of pain, maybe even acute pain, if cobra has bitten you, you're not really in a condition to sit patiently and listen to a discourse about the nature of God and the relationship of humanity to God. However, if this pain can be alleviated, it may just be that after it's gone away, you might be thinking, well, what is the purpose of my life? Or why did I come here? Or who am I? All of these are spiritual questions. And so you'll see, as Swami Kaleshwar is being interviewed by Alan Steinfeld, all of these topics will be addressed. So thank you for joining us, and without further ado, here's Alan Steinfeld. Hi, this is Paula Gloria. I'm the producer of The Whole Tooth, and I'm also the director of the Concordia Foundation. In my interest and search for higher states of consciousness and individuals who exhibit these higher states, and particularly who are able to transmit their beneficial healing energies to others, I came across Swami Kaleshwar. A friend of mine told me about this remarkable young 27-year-old and what he was able to bring to his environment, how he was able to inspire people through healings and through miracles. It seems at 14 years old, Swami Kaleshwar had a manifestation, a full physical manifestation of his master, Shirdi Sai Baba. Now, Shirdi Sai Baba has been dead since 1918, so it's very interesting that this young 14-year-old boy knew tremendous details about this man's life, ostensibly through his own personal experience. Many, many people doubted him. He was considered, as you'll see in this interview with Alan Steinfeld of New Realities TV, many people, even his parents, were very concerned about his mental stability. However, as time went on, it became very apparent that he wasn't a psychiatric patient, but that he actually was a being who was able to pull more of his divine nature into the world and able to inspire others to do the same. Part of this interview will be a yagya. A yagya is a fire ceremony that's done to bring the people who are doing the ceremony more into alignment with the beneficial laws of nature, so that the wishes and the aspirations, the hopes and the dreams can have the full power and force of the healing elements and the elements in nature that bring everything about that we see. Oftentimes when things aren't going right, we're out of alignment. And in order to come back into alignment to achieve what we want, there are ways of going about it. So I hope very much that you enjoy this interview with Alan Steinfeld. Swami Kaleshwar will be going into more detailed aspects of higher states of consciousness, the phenomenon of manifestations, of healings, of producing an Atmalingam, that's something that comes from the body of a saint, and how this benefits the world. So thank you very much. Hi, this is Paula Gloria. I'm the producer of The Whole Tooth and also the director of the Concordia Foundation. I welcome you to part 2 of this interview with Swami Kaleshwar. This interview is done by Alan Steinfeld of New Realities. Swami Kaleshwar is a remarkable young 27-year-old manifesting saint. He is able to produce miracles to humanity and to his environment, a message of deep inspiration and encouragement that indeed there's more to our life than what meets the eye. Swami Kaleshwar was only 14 years old when he met his master, Shirdi Sai Baba. Now, if you do the math, at 27 and when he was 14 years old, there's no way that he could have met his master on this dimension. At 14 years old, Swami had a materialization of his master, who's been dead since 1918. Shirdi Sai Baba is a remarkable saint. He was a remarkable saint living in India. He produced many miracles, and he's still highly regarded today. Swami Kaleshwar's claim that he had seen him was met with skepticism at first. Even Swami's parents, as you'll see later on in this interview, having a being like Swami as a child, who's able to bring forth more of his divine nature, is quite a challenge. This second interview goes into much greater depth about the personal life of the saint, what he's able to do for those around him, the personal people in his family, as well as his responsibilities in the world, and how he brings forth his teaching. The interview will start with a yagya. A yagya is a fire ceremony that's a traditional ceremony that's done to bring those who are participating in the yagya more into alignment with the laws of nature, so that their desires and aspirations can be met with greater success. And this is something that those who have more of an ability to draw forth their divine nature are able to draw it forth and give blessings. This is one of the tools of the trade, so to speak. So please join Alan and Swami for this interview as they go into much greater depth about the mechanics of achieving higher states of consciousness. Thank you for joining us.